Welcome back to another episode of the Popcorn Square. I am Neff, joined with
Kage.
And Buttons.
Yeah, and on this episode, it is titled Anything Good On. So we're really going to focus on TV shows, series that are currently running, and ones that we want to see in the future, in the near future, actually. So as far as current TV shows, right now, personally, I am not watching any current TV shows, but two TV shows that I'm going to be very interested in watching in the fall is going to be The Penguin, which starts on September 19th. Yes, September 19th this month. And then Dune Prophecy. I'm kind of on edge about Dune Prophecy, but I am fairly interested. That is going to be a prequel to the Atreides events. So that's going to be a really cool look into the Bene Gesserit and things like that. If you're someone that is a fan of Dune, I think this will be a joy for you. I just want to see how they present the show, and I want to see if the quality holds up, specifically the visuals and the writing. That is going to be very important. I do not think Denis is involved in this at all, so I'm very interested to see what they do with that. But as far as The Penguin goes, same thing. Matt Reeves is not involved with The Penguin. There's different people involved. There's different writers. We've kind of talked about this on the weekly before. I believe throughout the episodes, the writers change every episode except the first episode and the last episode. So I want to see how they balance that out. That can be kind of interesting, especially when you're trying to make a linear story about one character. So I want to see how that pans out. But those are the two shows that I am focused on for the fall. Like I said, I'm not watching anything currently, but my co-hosts, they may be watching some things, and they can speak on that, and then we'll kind of talk about what they're looking forward to if there's nothing on right now that they're interested in. Kage, you want to go off there?
So thanks, Neff. So I'm with you. I'm not really watching any shows right now, but we do have some shows coming in the pipeline. You already mentioned one of them, Dune Prophecy. OG Dune fan here. I've read the book 3 times. I've watched the recent movie. I remember the 1984 movie. I have the miniseries. So Dune is, needless to say, a very big series to me, big story to me. So we've never really talked about the timeline before the Harkonnen Atreides war. And I'm always a sucker for good origin backstories and stuff. So we'll see what they have to do with this one. I'm a little, I don't want to say cautious, but I'm not like as gung-ho for it as I am the main storyline. So we'll see. I'm hoping that they do well. I'm going to be looking out for that one. Another show is Secret Level. So, by the way, before I say anything yet, for those that don't know, Dune Prophecy is going to be streaming on HBO soon.
On Max.
On Max. Secret Level is going to be on Prime. So Secret Level, for those that don't know, that was recently announced at Gamescom. Basically, it's a show where every episode is telling a story within a video game universe, and it's going to be animated, not like cartoon, but like CG. So it's going to be interesting to see what games they incorporate into the show. I don't know if it's going to be a seasons thing. It's too early to say, but that's one to keep an eye out for. And of course, the biggest one that I'm excited for this year is season 2 of Arcane on Netflix. If you are a fan of League of Legends, that game, then you'll know what this is, but it should be known that you don't have to play video games, no League or anything, to be a fan of the show, because the writing, the combat, the animation is just solid. Like, I'm sold. I want to know what happens next. Unfortunately, this is going to be the second and final season. It's sad, but I respect them for that. I'm always saying less is more. The good news is Riot has said that they want to continue the show. It's going to be the final season about these characters, but League of Legends has 150 plus characters, and they're constantly making more. So needless to say, they're not going to be coming up short on characters to make a show about. You know, they can keep going. It's kind of like Marvel. There's how many Marvel heroes. You have enough resources there to really go off the handle for
Good
movies,
comparison.
for shows, for years. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But Buttons, what do you got?
So a lot of mine are actually, sequels again, and some of them, they've come out already, and I just haven't had a chance to watch them. And of course, I would say a lot of the shows and that I was looking forward to, most of them have come out already, and I have either watched them or they're just on my list of things to watch. When you're talking about having multiple platforms for streaming, there's a lot of content out there and just not enough hours in the day.
truth.
Some of the bigger ones that I'm looking for that have not come out yet, we already mentioned Arcane is one that I plan on watching. They're doing the second season of The Night Agent, which, for those of you who are fans of like Reacher and you have Netflix, Night Agent's going to be right up your alley. It's going to follow along the same kind of,
Themes,
action
yeah.
and kind of CIA hidden, conspiracies and things like that. So same thing with, I was hoping that they were going to bring back another season, but it got pushed to next year. They were going to do another season of The Recruit. I mentioned that to Neff off Mike. We were talking about that. But that one was slated to come out this year and it got pushed to next year. And they were citing, the writer strike and everything else. But, either way, I'm hoping that still comes out next year. But The Night Agent did get a release here towards the end of the year. So it will be coming out, so I'll be excited to watch that one. And right now I'm watching, just came out recently, would have been Unstable, the second season. That one's pure comedy, guys. If you're looking for just something lighthearted and kind of goofy funny, that's going to be that. And if anybody liked shows like Better Off Ted, or they kind of like that goofy humor, office humor, this is kind of set in like a science, I guess, they're in a lab, like a science lab, because it's about research and that kind of stuff. So it's going to have those kind of similar. It's also kind of gives you the same vibes as like Space Force did. It doesn't take itself seriously. It is just basically fluff, guys. It's not a whole lot of depth to it, but it is funny. And if you're just looking for a good time, Rob Lowe does a great job as far as his performance as being kind of like this unhinged, quirky dad that, is trying to engage with his son, but it does some off the wall things. So that show is pretty funny if you guys haven't seen that. They released the second season for that. And I'm also watching Emily in Paris, which, again, fluff for you guys, or well, for girls, really. It's not for guys. I don't think many guys would really enjoy it, but if you've got any females in your life that you think would just be down for like some drama, that definitely is out there. And I did mention to Neff that they did put on streaming Unreal, 4 seasons of that, so I'm kind of binging that right now as well. It's an older series, but it's full of the drama. So if you got women in your life and they love the drama, that's definitely another one to throw their way. And because Bridgerton's over now, you're gonna have to wait another year for another another season of Bridgerton.
Right.
Lady Jane on Prime, if anybody's like missing Bridgerton and wants that same similar, but throwing a little bit of fantasy in there, a little bit of magic-y kind of unrealism there, but it's definitely a comedy as well. So,
Anybody
those are
here
my
heard of
shows.
Slow Horses on Apple TV?
No.
So British spy thriller that's going on right now. I've heard some pretty cool things about it. So I think that one's pretty cool. Maybe something that the audience may be interested in looking at. That is on Apple TV. We're going to introduce the director's pick. So we've all come together, everybody at the table, we've come together and we've picked one director to focus on, right? And we needed at least 4 to 5 films watched of this director. And we're just going to kind of go into that director's filmography, the films we like about that director, that we like in that director's filmography. And then we're going to also talk about the stylistic approach that the director takes and the type of scripts that he likes to direct off of. So our first pick is David Fincher, all right? If everybody is not in tune with who David Fincher is, we'll give you guys a little bit of a outline on his career. So, started out in music videos, shot music videos for Madonna, did stuff with MTV, stuff like that, and he got his first feature film opportunity on Alien 3, which came out in 1992. Pretty polarizing film there. That was his first experience doing feature films. David Fincher has a pretty solid filmography, not many films in his filmography, but very good work within the filmography. He has 12 films total. I will run through all 12 of those films. I'll go into the films that I like from David Fincher, and then I will be passing it on to my co-host to talk about the films they like, and then we will deep dive on different aspects of how David approaches a film and just his filmography in general. First feature film, Alien 3, 1992, Seven, 1995, The Game, 1997, Fight Club, 1999, Panic Room, 2002, The Zodiac, 2007, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, 2008, The Social Network, 2010, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, 2011, Gone Girl, 2014, Mank 2020, and The Killer 2023. So he has put out some work relatively recently. I've seen at least 5 to 6 films on his filmography. I'll list through those films that I've seen: Alien 3, Seven, Fight Club, Panic Room, Zodiac, The Social Network, and The Killer. I did watch this year, actually, so that one is fresh in my mind. But I'll pass it off to Kage. We'll talk about the list that he has here, the films he's seen, and then we'll pass it on to Buttons, and then we'll deep dive on Mr. David Fincher.
Yeah, so am I just talking about Fincher right here?
Yeah. 'Cause it's
Okay.
just Fincher.
Yeah, so just talking about Fincher, Fight Club, that's a really big one to me. I think that's kind of a cult classic, if you will. Very smart movie, breaks the fourth wall. It's dark. I love the twist ending on there. That's how you do a twist, M. Night Shyamalan. But anyway, yeah, that Fight Club is an awesome movie. Seven, that's a really good, dark, gritty detective movie. Serial killer basically committing murders based on the 7 deadly sins, again, with a great twist ending. And of course, Zodiac. Zodiac is a different movie, very different movie. It's one that stuck with me. It's not a high action movie and stuff, but it's based on a true story on
Another
the Zodiac.
serial killer.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I was living in California in the area when this movie came out. Not when the Zodiac killer actually happened. That predates me, but but yeah, that film. It's a slow. I don't know. I feel like it's a slow burn movie, and the whole time you're watching the film, you're trying to guess like who could it be. You know what I mean? You get really into it, and at the very end of the movie, it's like you think you know who it is, but then it again leaves you guessing, just like people are in real life. I don't think they ever identified who the killer was, but that has Robert Downey Jr. in it.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo, yep. And it's funny.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
Jakey.
it had a pretty good cast.
Jakey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It had a pretty good
It was
cast.
solid cast. Solid cast. It was a solid movie, I think, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was definitely different than other movies that I've seen. Type of movies that I go for, and I think that's kind of the fun of it, is just trying to figure out like who is it, who done it, type thing. And yeah, and it had me on Google like looking stuff up, like who is
Because
this
it's
guy?
historical, so it's real. You can look into it
Right, and
yourself
Yeah,
and
this
even
actually
get
happened like they
more
they show,
information.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that this is something. I think it's kind of, not to say murder is cool, but it's like it's interesting. Now, if they turn around and said Saw was based on a real story, that would be terrifying. But yeah, that's for me for Fincher.
How many movies have you seen in his filmography?
For Fincher?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got those 3, but another sum here. Let's see. So I'm just going through his filmography of the ones that I've seen. I've seen Alien 3. I've seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Different film than what I normally watch, but I did enjoy that.
Right.
I've seen it quite a few times, actually. I see that he directed a Nine Inch Nails music video from one of my favorite songs, Only. So that's pretty cool. Just kind of going through, yeah, he's done quite a lot. Yeah, that's really all I've seen, to tell you the truth.
Interesting. Buttons, let's talk about Mr. David Fincher.
So yeah, I mean, most of his movies I would say have like a darker overtone to them. You know, he's done a lot of, you know, got some violence and action in there. So I've seen Alien 3, I've seen Seven, Fight Club, Panic Room, Zodiac, Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I've seen parts of, I don't think I've watched all the way through The Social Network, but I know I've seen parts of that movie. And I've also seen like little bits of Gone Girl. I don't think I've actually seen that one all the way through, but I know I've seen bits of Gone Girl. It was, that one for me, I think at the time that it came out was mainly the reason why I didn't watch it. I think I just had other things going on, didn't really get into it. I think that year there was, you know, a bunch of movies that came out that just kind of held more interest for me at the time.
Yep.
But I mean, you know, a lot of his earlier work, I would say is a little bit stronger, than the more recent stuff. And that's just me because I think it hits a little bit different for the age that I was when I was watching those movies. So they kind of stuck with me a little bit more. Like they seemed more impactful, I guess. You know, Seven and Fight Club, those were like strong movies when I was younger. You know, those came out in the 90s. So that would have been, you know, movies that I didn't see just once, but they would have replayed on TV. So I probably would have seen them multiple times. I own Fight Club, you know.
Same.
So that one's definitely, you know, I also own Panic Room. I did enjoy Panic Room. And, you know, Jodie Foster, you know, she does that type of role where she's not really, I mean, she's not really playing a victim. Like, she is a victim, but she kind of overcomes being the victim. Like, she fights back kind of thing. And so Panic Room is very much the same thing. She could have been a victim and it could have been horrible, but she like ends up being able to like overcome it and fight through it. And that was kind of, you know, it gave me very similar like character to Silence of the Lambs.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
You know, you get that kind of strength in her character to where she can overcome as well, and she kind of has to, you know, be intelligent
Tread
about,
carefully.
you know, yeah, and do that. And so I think that movie itself, it really highlights her as an actress. So that was some of the things that I liked about Panic Room. And, you know, it had a pretty solid cast. Overall, you know, it was believable in a good way. So, I mean, you can kind of see how, like, if it had played out in real life, like if this was an actual thing that happened, you could almost see like how this movie, like they used the space really well of the house and everything. So I enjoyed it. It was good. But, his later stuff, I don't know if it's just it just didn't appeal to me. I mean, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I know there's a lot of people that really enjoyed that movie. I never, it was based off of a book. I never was like...
I never read the book. I never saw it, but I heard great things.
Yeah, and it was kind of one of those things where it's like, I heard great things, but it just never really appealed to me. I mean, that one was, I think there was like 3 different books. There's A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo and something about
they turned the film. Yeah, they made a series of these films.
Yeah, well, because there's the books. Yeah, series of books. So, I mean, I think he only did one. He only did the one, and somebody else did. Because I want to say there's at least 2 movies, if not 3, that follow the series. And so he only did the one, but I know there's at least a second one out there from the series, but it must have been directed by somebody else. But I mean, obviously you can tell based off of the cast that he gets for his movies that he's got some pull at least. in Hollywood to like get either actors interested in being in the films. Neff mentioned that he doesn't have a huge filmography. He did music videos and stuff, so people can obviously see his style of directing as being, something that's solid and can tell a story. So, I mean, I feel like watching his earlier films in the 90s and that, you can really see that he is an established director as far as his vision comes across really clear and into an enjoyable aspect. I do think he's got a little bit of darkness to most of his films, and that comes through, because none of his filmography is something that's lighter. Even The Curious Case of Benjamin Button has like a darkness to it, because it's centered around the idea that this person is, struggling in life because they're aging backwards. So, I mean, all of that goes into, it's a heavy drama, but like I said, it's got a lot of depth to it and a lot of, like I said, a lot of that same, heaviness that just makes you feel like, it's so much more impactful.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was going to ask you about tone and then just the type of screenplays that he likes to target. And I was going to piggyback on what you said. Yeah, David Fincher, he likes to target screenplays that have a cerebral aspect. That's what I've noticed as far as the films he takes on. There's always something extra to it. It does have depth to it. I don't think you'd see David Fincher doing a Marvel film.
No.
Not to say that those movies don't have any depth to them, but it's a different aspect of depth to these films that David Fincher does. Specifically, The Zodiac is one of them. Fight Club is one of them.
None of these
Seven
are
is one of them.
None of these are blockbuster movies. They're not out there to be a lighthearted summertime release.
Cash grab
and
films. Yeah, so I really respect that he takes into account what he's actually going to work on, because we've seen directors take on movies and they know, okay, this is just a big opportunity to do this, but it looks like he really takes pride in picking specific scripts that he's going to take on. And like Button said, David Fincher focuses on a darker tone in his films. She brought up you said most of them are dark. I'd say the only one I'd argue doesn't really have a super dark tone to it is The Social Network, because that's basically the Facebook story.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
that one isn't, yeah,
obviously
that one isn't super
there
dark.
are scenes where it's not lit as well, so it does have a dark tone to the scene, dark aesthetic, but the movie itself is not really dark. Especially when you compare it to something like Seven or Fight Club.
Yeah, you could say, like, when you're comparing Social Network and Benjamin Button, for example, those ones are kind of what you were saying, a little bit more cerebral.
Yep.
It's about human connection and interaction more than the action itself.
Correct.
So the depth comes from that.
And so The Killer that came out on Netflix is actually the same, but I actually didn't rate The Killer that well. I think I gave that movie, I think I gave it a 6. To me, that movie had a cerebral type script, but it was trying too hard to be cerebral, and I could see straight through that. But Fassbender did a great job playing the main character. Really, I consider it almost like Beekeeper Light, where basically Fassbender, he's a assassin, right? And he actually misses the shot that he needed to make, and so he gets targeted by his group of, or his organization, I should say.
So
and so he
after him
becomes
'cause
the
he
target,
screwed
right?
up.
So they go after his girlfriend, and that's his safe place, and he figures out who did it, and then he tries to track down who made the call, you know what I mean?
Right.
And who made the call for the guy that he was supposed to shoot, not necessarily who makes the call at his organization, because he does track down a guy that sent him on the mission, and he ends up getting his revenge on him, but it actually goes a lot farther. But to me, that movie was trying to be too cerebral. I mean, in the first 20 minutes, it's an internal monologue of Fassbender. It's like, okay, let's get this movie going here. You know what I mean? So it wasn't really grabbing me, but the movie shot well. Productions is it's a good production, and obviously the acting is good when you have Fassbender leading the Michael Fassbender, that is, leading the movie. So the movie from that angle is not bad. I just think the script could have been a little stronger on that one. But yes, I did see The Killer. It is on Netflix. If you guys want to watch that, that is the latest David Fincher film. But like we talked about here, mostly his tone is a dark tone to his films. I think the screenplays that he picks up are very cerebral, very depthy, and that's what he targets. And I think he's good at that. I think that fulfills him rather than him just going for the cash grab, quick money movies. What do you think, Kage?
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen that many of his films, but he definitely has a distinct style. And I'll say because of what's it called, you just mentioned one that was different.
Oh,
The Social Network?
or Benjamin Button?
Benjamin Button.
Yep, that
so,
one is
so like
different from the
the
typical.
the other, like because I mentioned Fight Club, Seven, and Zodiac. Those are very dark, very gritty.
Girl with a Dragon Tattoo and
Yeah.
Gone Girl are also very dark movies.
Yeah, so it's like very dark, very cerebral, and again, he knows how to do a twist ending effectively, and you're not burnt out on it like M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, I don't think all of his movies are really have like a big twist in them. I think, you do see some, I guess you could maybe say surprises. I don't think they're necessarily
Okay.
twists. But, I mean, Seven's got an awesome way that you don't see it coming, and then you
Yeah.
get the delivery. Here's your delivery.
Fight Club.
Yeah, Fight Club. That
Yeah.
one I would say is the strong twist movie. Like that one.
But like-
if you're gonna say he did a movie with a twist, that would be the
Yeah,
one.
that's
That comes
Okay,
to
that's
mind.
Out
that's
the most.
fair, but like
Yeah.
he knows. My point is, he shows versatility.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing to take away from this conversation is that he shows versatility. Yes, he can do the dark and gritty and those shocking epiphany moments, the twist endings and stuff like that. He can do it effectively. M. Night Shyamalan, he just does twist like to the point where so much that you're like rolling your eyes, like you can kind of predict, okay, you're going to reveal something to me at the very end that's been the whole time.
And
something.
it may or not be good. Like
it may or may
good.
not.
Yeah, like
Or
that's the
could ruin the
problem.
whole
It's like, bro, if
movie
you have a
with your
twist and
twist,
you
yeah.
land the twist ending, then it works. But if you have twist endings and they don't land, well, what the
And the
heck am I
problem is
watching?
he has a record of making
Correct.
dropping twists that don't
Correct,
land.
correct.
And so Fincher, it's always effective. And then out of nowhere, you get Benjamin Button, and it's like, oh, it's kind of a somber love story, a weird love story, but it's like, oh. And then by the time the movie ends, you're like, that's not the normal movie I would go for, but that speaks to your ability as a director that you can put something out there like that that's completely different than what you normally do, but you still made it good. You still made it good. I took a literature and film class in college as an elective, and that was actually one of the movies that we did a report on, talking about that as well as the story, because I think it was a short story.
Oh, based off of a short story, the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been
100%
a while. It's been a while, but yeah, I like it because it was different. It was very well executed. You talk. I know not a David Fincher movie, but I think of Interview with the Vampire, and it shows the life of Brad Pitt's character, of the things he's seen. Whereas yes, it shows what he has witnessed in his age of his life. And Benjamin Button, also with Brad Pitt, it shows how he started his life, almost kind of like a Forrest Gump thing, if
Right,
you will,
right.
in a way.
Yeah,
It shows
I would
what
say
he
Forrest
did.
Gump's a pretty good analogy as far as Benjamin Button, as far as the tone of the movie
Yeah.
and the purpose of it to
Yeah.
like, show how his peculiar case impacted his entire life. Because with Forrest Gump, you kind of see, yes, it's historically like how his interactions got him from point A to point B, but also, his mental aspect of that kind of propels him through different situations in Forrest Gump. And so with Benjamin Button, it's kind of the same, like his peculiar, introduction to life impacts everything that goes on with him as
Yeah,
well.
Kage made some really good points, specifically talking about versatility. Guys, if you've seen Seven and you've seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, would you expect the same director to have shot those films?
No.
Just based off what you know about those films. Same thing goes for Zodiac and The Social Network. Would you have expected the same director to have shot those films? More than likely, the answer is going to be no. Now, there's going to be some things that overlap, and you can say, oh, that shooting style seems very similar to him, but two different categories when you're comparing those four movies together. So, yeah, I mean, what's your guys' favorite? My favorite, I'd say, I don't have probably one favorite. I think I have a tie here, but I'd say my top two out of Fincher's filmography, and I've seen like 7 of his films, is going to be Seven and probably The Zodiac.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Kage? What you got?
I'm gonna agree. Well, with Seven and Fight Club. Fight Club, man, that is Tyler Durden. Don't report me to the police or anything, but man, that dude's got a lot of great quotes.
For sure.
There's so many great quotes in that movie, just talking about commercialism, how nonchalant he is. He's really weird. He's like, who'd you fight and why? Abe Lincoln. Why Abe Lincoln? Because tall, skinny guys fight to the death. And it's like, okay.
Running with it.
I'm running with it. And then they start talking about Project Mayhem, and it just progressively gets weirder and more outlandish. And then finally, they hit you with that bomb at the end about Tyler Durden, and I'm like, whoa. And
Is this a test, sir?
yeah, and they were like, put your seats in the back in the upright position, and that's literally what the line that they say to tell you this entire time. You know, it's like, that is how you do a twist.
Yeah. for
That's
sure.
how you do a twist.
Very distinctive film. Fight Club, that's a film that a lot of people, if they've not seen, they've definitely heard of that film for sure.
I had to stop myself because I was like, it's been out for a while. On
Is
one
Brad
hand,
Pitt Fincher's guy?
I mean, it does. I mean, you've got at least 3.
Is-
you got at least 3 for him?
Is
So
Brad
4th of his
Pitt-
filmography.
Is
Yeah.
Brad Pitt Fincher's guy like Johnny Depp is Tim Burton's guy?
Yeah, that's what he's asking. Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm inclined to agree at this point.
I
Like,
mean-
now that we've named it all out, it's like, you got a point.
Yeah.
It'd be different if he had 25 movies and he was only in 3. But
Yeah.
the fact that he only has 12 and Brad Pitt's been in a 4th of those movies, it's pretty much his guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
They-
they have
they
one
have-
more, and I think they have one more in the tank together.
They've established a good
Rapport.
good work.
Especially some of his
relationship, yeah.
biggest films. You know, Seven really kind of brought him back after the Alien 3 drama, and so Seven really kicked the door in. Brad Pitt starring in Seven, Morgan Freeman right there co-starring. Great film there. Fight Club, we just talked about that with Edward Norton. Edward Norton's actually the lead. Brad Pitt is the supporting role, and then Benjamin Button, he is the main character, I believe. I haven't seen
Yeah,
Benjamin
no,
Button,
he
but
is.
everybody
It's
heard
good,
of.
man.
Yeah,
You
everybody.
need to see
That
it.
was definitely in the press. You know, when that movie came out, it was a big deal. But yeah, so yeah, Brad Pitt, he's all over David Fincher's filmography. Buttons, what are your top Fincher films?
So, I mean, obviously Fight Club, I think after that, you know, it's kind of hard because I want to say, like, I enjoyed the other films of his that I watched, but I guess the one that kind of sticks with me the most, like, not saying that they weren't good or anything, but I probably think the one that sticks with you most is Seven. It's just kind of just the overall arching themes behind it. Like, I mean, I remember watching Zodiac and really enjoying Zodiac as well. But I guess if I were to compare whether I like Zodiac more than Seven, I think I would still have to go with Seven.
Nice, yeah.
But,
Good
you
choice.
know, I definitely think that as far as all the way up to like 2008, like, I feel like that's his stronger movies. Not, you know, again, I just feel like, you know, maybe over time, when you get closer to that 20-year mark of being in the business, it just kind of, you know, you got to fight with studios more, I think. Directors and studios, they have like this whole thing where it's like they want either what was making money before, like, do it just like how you did it for this movie. You know, like, this movie made a ton of money, so it made a ton of money, so do it just like that because that's what we're expecting.
Easy money, yeah.
Yeah. Or they're trying to branch out a little bit more and do something a little different, and they're like, oh, like in this case, you know, we talked about Benjamin Button. That was very different from his other movies. And, you know, and even The Social Network is very different from his other movies. And then, like, he comes back and now he's doing, you know, movies like Gone Girl and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like those are kind of going back towards his original, like darker themed stuff. So it was kind of like, well, you know, did the studio say, all right, we need to rein you in a little bit, you need to go back to doing what you were doing before? Or did he choose to go back to that style because he felt more comfortable with it? And then is like, are you sticking yourself into that box to where you're not being creative anymore? You're just doing what you know.
Yeah.
So,
good point. So all in total, Fincher has 9 Academy Awards on 40 nominations. So he has quite the award, I guess, the trophy wall, you know,
Yeah.
as far as that goes. And that's shooting what, man? What's that? Almost 20%, 25%?
well, if he's got 12 and 9 awards, so I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, but based off the 40 nominations.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's
I
like
see what you're
what?
saying.
Yeah, that's like 25%. So yeah, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good for him. This was a good chat about David Fincher. We want to know what you guys think about David Fincher. If you've seen any of David Fincher's films, maybe you've seen some a while ago, you need to refresh. But we want to know what you think about that.
Which one is your favorite?
Right. Remember, like we said, this is the first time we're really doing our director's pick, and I think it was a pretty good conversation all around. Next one, we're not going to give you guys any hints. We're going to have to try to figure out who we're going to target this next time. It's going to be another good one, so stay tuned for that. Anybody else have anything to add?
I was
Kage
gonna say,
buttons?
if there's any directors that you guys would like to hear us go through,
Yeah.
we'd love to know that as well.
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
You know, maybe you guys come up with somebody that, you know, it wasn't on our list, and we can definitely look into their filmography and do our take on that director.
For sure. Anything else, Kage?
I think we've hit it.
All right, guys. Like we just said, comment down below. We want to hear what you think. We want to know what you think about this episode. We want to know what you think about the shows coming out this fall. We want to know what shows you are watching that maybe we did not mention. And then we want to know what you think about David Fincher. So comment down below. Like, subscribe, share with a friend, and be safe.
Be safe.